What is teaching? Today we're here with Professor Wang Geerling. He is a professor of instruction at the University of Texas at Austin. Hello, Wang. How are you doing?
Very good, Park. Thank you for helping me out with the IT problems we've had before. But the video is on now, which is awesome. So looking forward to the interview. Let's hope it's all
Not a
smooth
problem
sailing.
at all. Yes, and thank you so much for being here. So let's start with the first question of how did you get into teaching?
Well, first let me say that my PhD is in history, not economics. Okay, so I did no teaching at all until the final year of my PhD, and it's pretty common to work as a TA or tutor for a unit or two before you graduate. So I did that in history. And in history, you have small group settings, readings, discussion. And I got to really appreciate active learning there. And I really loved it. So when I was about to finish my PhD, I spoke with my supervisor and I said, listen, what can I look forward to when I get my PhD in history? And he said, unemployment. I thought, okay, I need a backup plan. Now, I previously studied economics. So I studied economics for 4 years. Then I transferred to history and did a PhD. After my PhD, I traveled for a year. I worked as an editor, did a bit of RA work, and then I started as a TA in economics at La Trobe University and pretty much worked my way up over 20 years from the very, very bottom to the very, very top. So I won't lie to you. I won't say that I always thought I wanted to be a teacher because I didn't. It
Hmm.
was it was the experience as a TA in the final year of my PhD where I really got to love the concept of active learning, and
Right.
it's been with me ever since.
Yes. So can I explore more on this word active learning? Because you
Yep.
have done your PhD quite a few years back.
Yeah.
The active learning then and the active learning now, is it the same thing?
No, it's changed a lot. I mean, obviously, with technology, we've come up with new techniques of teaching, and there's new concepts. And by active learning, for me, it's all about experiential learning, which means students learn by doing. And it's the same thing with anything in life. I can read a book. That doesn't make me an author. I can watch football. Doesn't make me a good football player. You've got to learn by doing. So putting students at the center of learning, I think, is really important. So I like experiments. I like demonstrations. I like student-led projects where they might synthesize music with economics or create a video about economics or something like that. Learning by doing, and also experience to the real world or everyday life. So that's when I talk about active learning, it's always about engagement, interaction, intuition, and hopefully at the end of it, excellent learning outcomes.
Yes, that's quite interesting. So, just to explore more a little bit on the
Yep.
active learning, because you talk about engagement, interaction, technology, can I ask you, in your opinion, what is the meaning of teaching?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, teaching is really just the process of transferring or transferring knowledge from one person to another, showing people how to do things. I mean, teaching is a pretty generic concept.
Yes.
My view is that it's about learning how to do things, learning about the real world, and about putting theoretical knowledge into action.
Mm.
That's pure learning. I mean, you can learn something by reading a book, but and you might be able to replicate it on a test, but it doesn't really mean that you understand it. You're really just regurgitating it. So learning is also about the transference of knowledge and
Yes.
being able to activate that at higher order learning as opposed to just taking an exam.
Yeah, that is a very good point there, which lead to my next question of what strategy or what are some of the strategy that you find or you found the most effective for student engagement in the learning process?
Okay, so for me, the key challenges are student engagement and experiential learning. So I teach first year. I've taught first year micro, first year macro for nearly 20 years, Park. I'm getting old. And with first year students, if you don't engage them, they don't learn. So it's a little bit like Fight Club. Rule number one, engagement. Rule number two, engagement. So it's got to start there. By engagement, I mean getting the students interested in learning, getting them to come to class, getting them to read the materials, getting them to think about learning, to work in class, and then to reflect on what they've done, and then hopefully by the end of the semester, show that they've actually learned a lot of things. So engagement is very, very critical, especially with first year. But it's all about experiential learning. If you're not learning through experiences. How do you actually learn? You learn how to ride a bike by getting on a bike and pedaling and learning how to use the brakes and the handlebar and to steer. You don't learn how to ride a bike by reading about it. It's the same with teaching. So experiential learning for me is about experiments and demonstrations in classroom. Think pair shares, Kahoots, video projects, student-led projects where they take ownership of their own learning and then demonstrate to me that they actually understand the materials. So they're the key things. So I use a lot of techniques like that. I use a lot of participation in class. So it could be 20, 30% of your overall grade. I use a lot of small exams throughout the semester. It's better to have learning every week than just at the end of the semester, because if students are learning on a week-to-week basis and they've got some process of measuring that learning, then you can see what they're actually learning. And if they're not learning, they get a good indicator early on. Whereas if you have the Scandinavian system where it's 100% exam at the end of the semester, you might not know that you don't know it until it's too late. So small stakes every week is a very, very important part. Also to give students feedback so they understand what they know and what they don't know.
Yes, that's a very good point there. And even made to touch on the experiential learning in class. So you do that in class, and examiner you gave is like excellent. Do you do anything pre of that class? Like, is there any contents that they learn by themselves online, or have to do some reading before to the class before they do the experiential learning?
Okay, I mean, at the moment we're back in resident mode, but during COVID we were all in hybrid or online mode. So during that period of time, of course, everything was done sort of pre-class. I've never sort of formally flipped my classroom in a resident setting, but I know a lot of people who do. I have a history of economic thought course, which I teach with intermediate level, and it's a bit of a flipped classroom there that they read in advance and then they have a test before they come into class. So yeah, I sort of experiment with both models. But I think if you're going to go down the flipped class pathway, that's fine. But you've got to make sure that the assessment actually picks up what you need the students to learn before they get into classroom. There's no point having that and then running a lecture again. If you're going to go down that path, then the workshop purely has to be dedicated to active learning techniques, not just regurgitating material they've already learned. So yeah, you can do either method. I think lectures plus tutorials or workshops both can function effectively. The key thing is to think about how you want to teach the class and make sure that the learning outcomes and the assessments are aligned properly, and that there's engaging, stimulating material and assessment that sort of captures all of that stuff.
Right. So there are a lot of you just now you touched about learning outcome, and which in a way that is a learning process, and you there are also a lot of engagement and interaction there. So what is the role of student interaction in their said learning process?
I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, that students play a pivotal role. If you're talking about experiential learning, I have lots of experiments and demonstrations in my classroom. If the students don't get involved, it doesn't happen. So we have experiments where they get up on stage, trade creates value, tennis ball game, money grab to illustrate prisoner's dilemma. Students love this kind of stuff. Food eating contests to illustrate diminishing marginal utility. Students love all this stuff. So there are so many fun ways you can get students involved in class. I always have prizes and giveaways as well. And these are small stakes things, stuff you buy for $1 or $2. And students love that, a hairbrush or something like that, a clip, a bag of marbles, something trivial like that, but they love that stuff. So with the experiments and demonstrations, I think it's quite easy. Provided you're an extrovert and you like to be on stage, students love the microphone, they love the attention. So in class, I think it's quite easy. The other way of doing it in terms of getting the students to be part of it is to give them student-run projects. And it's all about the students there. I let them choose their own teams. I don't like putting students in teams and forcing them to work with people that they don't want to work with. They set the boundaries, they set the rules. If they've got a complaint, they can come and see me, and then we can worry about maybe putting someone in a different team. But I say, listen, here's a music recon project. You can work alone or you can work in groups of 4. You choose your partners. But if you don't want to work with someone, you can work alone if you want, because some students don't want to be part of a team. Exactly. So my view is give them choice. And if you make a bad choice, well, you're on your own. All right. So don't complain if you make the wrong choice. If you get involved with 3 or 4 students who don't want to work, then you're on your own. So that's important. But you've also got to monitor the projects as well. Give the students an opportunity to provide feedback along the way, to reflect on their learning, what works, what doesn't work. And then at the end, you can have a viewing party where they show the videos or whatever it is that they've produced, or it can be a case study, or it can be a presentation in front of the class, and get them to vote on it. With us at the end of it. And you can also use peer feedback as part of the grading process as well. You've got plenty of options there. I mean, there are so many possibilities now with education to enhance the student experience, put them front and center, make the students feel loved, make them feel appreciated, and let them know that you care about them and want them to learn. If you get that right, and you've got a bit of charisma and you've got some good teaching material, the rest really takes care of itself. I love having student projects, and they love it as well. It's a nice mix from having another exam or another essay, and ultimately some of my favorite student moments have been products or projects they have created, which I have used in my own teaching. And I say that to the students: if you create a good music for econ clip, I'll use it in my class next semester, and your names will be at the bottom of the screen when it comes on. I love it.
Yes, yes. Those are many. There are a few very good points there, especially the way you. I appreciate when you talk about like let students choose their own groups and take their own, ownerships, because in the real world they can't always just choose their colleagues as well. And I like the point that you talk about get their feedback early so that we know how they feel, if there's anything that should be changed over time or at any point in time, because normally in most of the university, we hear the feedback of the student at the end of the semester or trimester. So
get good grade, good
yeah.
feedback. Get bad grade, bad feedback.
Exactly.
Get feedback in real time. It's like if you've got a restaurant. I want to know now that the burger is being undercooked. I don't want to wait 5 days and have lots of customers complain. If a chef ain't cooking the burger properly, teach them how to cook it properly or get rid of them. Yes. Feedback early works for students. And week by week, and you've got to monitor projects. You can't just leave them to their own devices and say, get back to me in 6 weeks, kids. That doesn't work. You need to monitor it to ensure that students are pulling their own weight. And also if they've got questions about, well, how do I do this? So some of my projects involve lots of IT stuff, and some students are good, some aren't. So I create manuals to help them upload videos, download, all that type of stuff, and software editing and whatever. Some students really struggle with that. So you need, I think with these projects, you also need to have a bit of class time dedicated to it as well. So students can come in, you can see them work in their groups, and you can say, okay, guys, let's troubleshoot. What are the problems you're facing here? And you can deal with it all in one broad sweep, as opposed to do it in your own time and upload it, and then,
Have you ever come, the tips that you gave is pretty good for students who are engaged in class or turn up to the face-to-face class or some of the online class. But have you come across any group of students who say working full-time could not turn up to the class? How do you work with
I know where this is going.
Yes.
There's a lot. I mean, look, here's the reality. I mean, I teach economics. In week 2, we get to opportunity costs and trade-offs. If you want to work full-time, that's fine. But if you sign up to my class and it's a resident class, you're expected to show up to class. Okay. Yes, lectures are recorded, so you can watch them later on. I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes to tutorials or assessment, you're expected to meet deadlines. Now, having lectures recorded helps students because some of them want to work part-time or they've got other commitments. But if you work full-time and you can't devote 10 hours a week to this course, my advice would be don't take it. Don't take it. That you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to work full-time and have kids and have a relationship and study, something has to give. So don't make a commitment that you can't honour. And I'm very upfront with students. Now, I work in America at the moment. It's a lot different because in America, most students don't work part-time. They live on campus, so they're always there. In Australia, where I'm from, I've worked at Latrobe, worked at Monash. It's different. So I understand here that most kids do work part-time and their work is their sun, and you are one of the planets that revolve around the sun. I say to the students, listen, in my class, I'm the sun. You revolve around me. If you're doing this full time, I'm expecting you to make yourself available for the tutorials and the assessment, full stop. And
Well
if you can't
said
do that, probably need to go part-time.
Yes, yes. So if they can't commit it to their study, then they have to think of what not to do or what to do. So they have to plan well.
Yeah, you prioritize in life. You
Yes,
can't have everything. You've got to choose between alternatives, choose the highest valued alternative. Sometimes that means that other stuff you don't do. But if if you are overburdened and overstressed, you end up doing nothing well anyway.
yes,
So I'm
exactly.
actually doing them a favor by telling them to actually opt out if they can't devote the time.
Exactly. Yes. Now I understand that you have been an invited guest speaker for a few functions in the past, and I also know that you are doing very well in terms of introducing, say, technology, engagement, innovation into your classroom. Could you please tell us about those things?
Oh, I love technology in the classroom. I mean, your viewers might be surprised. We spent 15 minutes, viewers, pre-recording. I couldn't get my camera to work on Zoom, but it was a problem with the laptop, not me. I love technology in the classroom. I think that technology gives us so many possibilities to do things better in life. But technology is like nuclear power. It can give us cheap, efficient electricity, or it could blow us up. So it's not good or bad. It's purely how you use it. I've seen technology make people smarter, more efficient. I've also seen it make people lazy.
Mm.
So you've got to be at the top of your game in academia, in teaching, as you know, and you'll find out, Park, soon enough. If you stay in this industry long enough, you survive by adapting or you perish. And technology is the key to the future, so you have to embrace it. I love it. I mean, I started off with very basic technology. When I started, we didn't even use media in teaching. Now we're all using AI. So AI is the new frontier, right? And I've recently published a paper on ChatGPT, and what challenges it faces for teaching. Look, crisis creates opportunity. So when AI came in last year, the world caved in, the sky fell apart. I'm mixing up metaphors now, and so many people got worried and upset about it. Why? Embrace it. It's here. So rather than sook about it, let's just use it as an opportunity to fix our classroom. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, let's just put everything back in the classroom. I won't let my students do anything outside the classroom anymore." That's a knee-jerk, short-term response. Why not think about how you teach and use AI to improve it? The students are using it anyway.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
AI is a little bit like sex education. If you've got kids, probably want to get them sex education before they get to become teenagers, right? It's a bit late when they get to about 20 or 30. Um, Students are using AI anyway, so let's stay ahead of them. So let's embrace this challenge and improve the classroom, which I do. I use AI to devise think, pair, share questions, short answer questions, exam questions. I filter it. You can get students to use it, for essays and things like that. Just tell them the parameters for using it. And why not run a workshop where you show students how to use it responsibly?
I totally agree with you because technology like this, we can't just pretend like it's not exist in the world and tell students
Of
not to
course not.
use it at all. So just like what you said, teach them how to use it responsible. That
And the
is a good
genie's the
way.
genie's out of the bottle. I mean, the
Exactly.
reality is, once students adapt to AI, when I log onto Facebook now, Facebook knows my age demographic and it says, "Would you like me to show you? Oh, would you like our AI assistant to show you how to write an 80s synth ballad?" AI is everywhere now, so you can't turn away from it as teachers. We're letting our students down if we bury our head in the sand and say, let's go back to a pre-AI world. I mean, I love the internet when it came out. I use Kahoot, Think, Pair, Share. I use lots of multimedia in classroom. I'm very good with technology. The students love it as well. I use TikTok in class. I'm all over social media in class because students love it. It's
Yes,
their life. So
sure.
um, if you want to be an effective teacher, you've got to take your product to your audience. If your
Mm.
audience are young adults, then use the mediums that they like. It's pretty simple. If you're teaching 60, 70-year-old people who are scared of technology, maybe you want to go old school, chalk and talk. But with young people who are tech savvy, don't be a dinosaur.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Now, do we have any one last tips for the audience in terms of teaching?
Cool. Um, Oh, geez, there's a lot of tips. Okay, I mean, the basic principle for me is always be engaged, be passionate, and um, always prepare in advance because things can go wrong. But also be empathetic. I mean, these are young adults we're teaching. They're not perfect in life. Some of them are struggling. What you find easy, they may not find necessarily easy to comprehend. You've always got to be empathetic as a teacher. Remember what you were like as a student and then try to improve on that. But if you don't love what you do, you're not passionate about teaching, why would you expect your students to care? Do what you do in life with a passion, do it with joy, and then hopefully students will come along for the ride.
Right. Do with love and passion about what you're doing and put heart into it. That is a very good statement there. So this is What is Teaching with Professor Wang Geerling. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.